The sixth time I met my parents, Gu Xingzhou didn't come again. My mother put down the chopsticks in her hand and her face darkened. You've been with your boyfriend for 3 years and you can't even meet for a meal? My throat moved, but before I could say anything, the phone rang first. Nianzi, Manchua was knocked down in the supermarket and her knee was broken. Gu Xingzhou's voice was urgent, and Jiang Manchua's soft voice came from the other end. Brother Zhou, you really don't need to go to the hospital. Don't be so nervous. How can that be possible? You're a girl. What if you get a scar? Then he remembered me, and his tone suddenly became casual. I'll transfer you 2,000 yuan and give your uncle and aunt a good meal. I hung up the phone. For some reason, I breathed a sigh of relief. He raised his head and smiled at my mother. He said there was a traffic jam on the road, and he would be there soon. 2 minutes later, there was a knock on the door, and a man in a coat pushed the door open and entered. Sorry, uncle and aunt, I'm late. 1. The 5th appointment was a month ago when my dad was having heart bypass surgery. I wanted to see my boyfriend before surgery. Gu Xingzhou promised well and said he would arrive on time. But until the operation started, his phone number was not answered. Half an hour later, he responded with a message. Baby, the company works overtime and I really can't refuse it. I'm sorry, baby. I squatted in the fire escape at the end of the hospital corridor, the light from my phone screen reflecting on my face. The page only contains green messages that I send one after another. My dad is in the operating room. Can you come? Please. Tears hit the screen. There are 10,000 things I want to say to him, but I still understand his work. In the end, I deleted it and thoughtfully replied, work hard. In the ward, my mother kept asking me, where is your boyfriend? Didn't I agree? I could only lower my head and murmur, his company has something to do temporarily. My dad glanced at me and said nothing, but his hands kept shaking. It wasn't until my best friend Jiang Mi dumped the video in front of me that I knew he was doing it for his childhood sweetheart Jiang Manchua. In the picture, she was holding a cat wrapped in gauze and Gu Xingzhou was standing next to her, helping her hold the bag. Caption. At the critical moment, Brother Zhou is still reliable. When Mao Mao fell, he was more anxious than me. In that Douyin post, she at Xingzhou. Gu Xingzhou also commented, Brother Zhou will always be your support. Jiang Mi shook my shoulders and yelled, Suni Yancy, he threw you away 5 times for Jiang Manchua. How about we find another way to repay our kindness? For example, let him and Jiang Manchua have a harmonious relationship. I watched that video over and over again, and my eyes felt sour, and I didn't let go. Jiang Mi was right. He would help them and let himself go. But I still wanted to know why he lied to me, so I called him. But he didn't panic when his lie was exposed. Instead, he said confidently, Baby, I've had Manchua's cat for 8 years. She's like a relative. She's a girl. She was so panicked when the cat fell. Can I not go? Besides, your dad has been having this problem for many years, and he hasn't died over and over again. It's not a big deal. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. His voice became increasingly impatient. If you insist on making a fuss about the past, then we have nothing to talk about. That day, my dad was stimulated and went straight to rescue. 3 critical illness notices were issued in a row. My mother and I were anxious outside the rescue room. I thought about it again and sent a message to Gu Xingzhou. I hope that he will help me cool down and watch over me all night long when I had a fever on a rainy night 2 years ago. But there was no reply. And on Jiang Manchua's Douyin, Brother Zhou heard that there was a power outage at my house. I told him I wasn't afraid, but he insisted on coming to stay with me in the middle of the night. He was treated like a child. A chat record is also attached. She told Gu Xingzhou that the power outage was at 12:20 p.m. The time I sent the message was 12:19 in the morning. While I was afraid of my father's body, he was worried about whether another woman was afraid of the dark. I squatted outside the emergency room. My legs were numb, and I didn't feel anything. Later, when I stood up, my knees gave out, and I fell to the ground. My mother helped me up and asked me if it hurt. I said it didn't hurt. My mother didn't believe it. She opened my trouser legs and saw a large bruise on my knee. There was a cut in the middle, and blood was seeping out. Her eyes were red, and she said nothing. But compared to my heart, knocking my knees is nothing. The next morning, he sent a message. I'm sorry, baby, but it's also my fault that Manchua was unhappy because of the phone call you made before. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to accompany her even if the power went out. I'm apologizing for you. You won't blame me, right? I typed it for a long time and finally deleted it, only replying with the word, I've known it ever since. Don't be persistent if you can't catch it. So, I decided to leave. 2. The moment the door opened, my mother's eyes were like knives. You still know how to come? Lu Yanzhou stood at the door, his coat stained with the cold air outside. Put down the things in your hands and bend slightly towards my mother. Auntie, I'm sorry for keeping you and Uncle waiting for so long. My mother snorted. Been busy for 3 years? Even if we take the initiative to meet you, it's so difficult to invite you. My dad didn't speak, but the hand holding the teacup didn't move. Lu Yanzhou walked in and sat down next to me. I was about to explain to my mother, but he held my hand. Then he handed the sweet-scented osmanthus cake to my mother and said in a natural tone, Annie, I'm sorry. I can't arrange the surgery. I heard Nancy said you like to eat this, so I will apologize to you. My mother took it, and her eyes softened slightly. It's hard to buy from this store. It takes 2 hours to queue. Dropped in this morning and waited in line for a while. But I know that he lives in the east of the city, and the time-honored brand is in the west of the city. It takes 3 hours to go back and forth through the city. I looked at it and suddenly wanted to cry. Not just because I was touched, but because it has been a long time since I was treated as a person who needs to be remembered, rather than an account to be transferred later. It was 3 months ago, on the eve of my mother's 60th birthday, and we were preparing to meet her for the 4th time. Gu Xingzhou put his arm around my shoulders and vowed, I will definitely go this time, and I will also buy you the sweet-scented osmanthus cake that your mother loves to eat. I was hesitant at first, but seeing his serious face, I believed him. On the day of her 60th birthday, my mother wore a cheongsam from the bottom of her suitcase, and my father rarely wore a tie. Relatives whispered among themselves, where's Niancy's boyfriend? Big boss. Is it so difficult to find him? My mother smiled and smoothed things over. There's a traffic jam on the road. I'll be there soon. The dishes are cold, hot, and cold again. My mother quietly took me to the kitchen and said, call him and ask him where he is. Don't tell me anything happened. I called 7 times, but no one answered. I sent it via WeChat, and the automatic reply was, received. It just so happened that Jiang Manxue posted a new message on WeChat Moments. In the first picture, Gu Xingzhou is holding a pickup sign at the high-speed rail station, which says, Uncle Jiang, Aunt Li. In the second picture, he was helping 2 old people carry their suitcases, smiling attentively. The third picture, the sweet-scented osmanthus cake from a time-honored brand in the west of Chengdu that was agreed to be given to my mother, is placed on the coffee table of Jiang Manxue's house. Caption: My parents came to see me. Brother Xiao insisted on coming to pick him up and brought a souvenir. He is more considerate than his own son. I stared at the box of sweet-scented osmanthus cake. My eyes felt sore, and my heart felt like I had swallowed a fish bone. I walked back to the private room and heard my aunt holding my mother's hand. Is your daughter's boyfriend a liar? The glass of wine my mother was holding paused. No, her voice was tight. The child is busy with work. The waistline of her cheongsam was wrinkled by herself. At the end of the day, my mother walked me to the door and suddenly stretched out her hand to comb my hair. She said, Niancy, Mom is not wronged. Mom just loves you. Under the street lamp, her eyes were red. My dad stood behind her, put his hand on her shoulder, and said nothing. Then one day I accidentally looked through the chat history. In the dialogue box, she sent the packaging of the sweet-scented osmanthus cake. Brother Zhou, you gave the sweet-scented osmanthus cake to my parents. Sister, Nian won't be angry, right? She doesn't know. Jiang Manxue sent a shy expression and added, What about Sister Nian's mother? Didn't you say her birthday is coming soon? Gu Xingzhou did not answer directly. He only replied with 2 words. It's okay, just transfer some money to her. She is easy to coax. I saved her life. She can't live without me. He did save me. 3 summers ago, I was taking photos by the river when I slipped and fell into the water. I couldn't swim, and I choked on my water several times. He who was passing by jumped down and pulled me up. I woke up in the hospital, and he was beside the bed, holding my hand, and his eyes were red. The nurse said, Your boyfriend has been waiting outside all night. At that time, I thought I had met my Prince Charming. But now that I have saved my life, my parents will be humiliated along with me. Am I really right to do this? 3. My mother's voice pulled me back. Nian Xi, give Xiao Lu some food. They just picked it up for you, so it's better for you to just eat it by yourself. I was stunned for a moment and picked up the serving chopsticks, not knowing what to pick up. I can count on one hand the number of times Lu Yanzhou and I have actually eaten together, and I don't know his preferences. Lu Yanzhou seemed to have noticed my embarrassment, so he picked up a piece of sweet and sour pork ribs and said with a smile, Annie, don't blame her. She usually picks them up for me at home. She might be too nervous today. My mother smiled. Why is she nervous? It's not like she's meeting your parents. Lu Yanzhou's face stiffened and his voice softened. My parents are gone a long time ago. Otherwise, they would have come here today. The air was suddenly quiet. My mother's smile paused and faltered. I'm sorry, Yanzhou. I didn't know about the situation. Another slap hit me hard on the back. You kid, why don't you tell mommy? I don't know anything. Just like my dad didn't know, on the night of his rescue, I squatted in the corridor and made 11 phone calls to a person who wouldn't come. And Lu Yanzhou appeared at that time. Although he and I were from the same university, we never exchanged a few words, and he later dropped out of school. Until that night when my dad had surgery, he saw me crying in the corridor. Sue Niancy. I looked up. Lu Yanzhou was wearing a white coat with a work badge on his chest. He took off his mask. It took me a long time to recognize it. Are you Lu Yanzhou? Well, your dad's surgery was successful. Don't worry. If he recovers well, he will be discharged from the hospital next week. Thank you. Seeing that an old classmate with whom I didn't have much friendship could still comfort me made me feel touched and sad. He then took out a tissue and handed it to me. You can come to me if you need anything in the future. Stop crying in secret. So this time I thought of him. Fortunately, to have him. The phone vibrated suddenly. I took a look and saw that it was a photo sent by Gu Xingzhou. The background is my home and his. In the picture, Jiang Manchua's knee was indeed injured, but only a band-aid was used to cover the wound. Baby Manchua was seriously injured, so I brought her to our house to recuperate. She can't get used to eating outside food. Remember to accompany your parents and come back to cook. I looked at Jiang Manchua's favorite cherries placed on the coffee table and watched as the sofa cushions were changed to her favorite color. I typed, "Let's break up," calmly without even frowning. Set your phone to do not disturb mode and place it upside down on the table. When my father was hospitalized, I didn't want my mother to have a bad rest in the hospital every day, so I mentioned to him, how about letting my mother come to our place to sleep for a few days so that she can have a better rest? Gu Xingzhou refused at that time, and his tone was not good. I'm not used to having other women at home. I gave him excuses for 3 days before and finally told myself that he just didn't like to be disturbed. Now he takes another woman and lives in his home. It took me 3 years to understand the words other woman. My mother is another woman, and so am I. Under the dinner table, Lu Yanzhou squeezed my hand. His voice was so low that only I could hear. Are you okay? 4. I nodded. My father saw our interaction and smiled with satisfaction. When he smiled, his nasolabial folds were very deep and his face still didn't look good. It has been like this since I was discharged from the hospital with a layer of gray in my pale face. Doctors said that although resuscitation was successful, the damage to his heart was irreversible. Time is running out. When I was checking out, my mother pulled me and lowered her voice. Although the child has never come, the doctor is busy and understands. After meeting, he looks really good and he is attentive and considerate to you. Please make a decision when you have time. You also know what is going on with your father. I opened my mouth and wanted to say he's not. But when the words reached his lips, he swallowed them back and nodded. Good. A marriage partner who's been dating for 3 years always sounds more reassuring than someone who has just met. I told Lu Yanzhou about this. His hands paused on the steering wheel. Have you thought about it? He said nothing, turned on the turn signal, and pulled over. The car was parked on the side of the road, and the wipers were wiping. The car was very quiet, so quiet that I heard his breathing, which was heavier than usual. You know the marriage certificate means that the two of us will be the closest people in the future. It's not an act, it's not a rescue. It's the kind of life that we really want to live together. Su Nianzi, I will not tolerate any more relations between you and Gu Xingzhou. Are you sure? I looked into his eyes. There is seriousness and caution in it. There is another thing I have never seen in Gu Xingzhou's eyes. He cares about my answer. I'm sure. After a long silence, I realized that he had silently rejected me. Who would take the matter of marriage as a joke? I looked at the figures coming and going through the car window, and suddenly I remembered that a year ago, Gu Xingzhou said he wanted to marry me. It was also in the evening like this, and there was rain on the car window. He said, when my career is stable, we will get married. But now, his career is becoming more and more stable, and our relationship is becoming more and more distant. He always said there was no rush, but my dad was. Lu Yanzhou suddenly spoke in a daze, with a secretly excited tone. Is everything ready? What? Marry. His heart skipped a beat for no reason. He looked at the handsome face beside him and nodded gently. By the time the official seal was stamped, I still hadn't come back to my senses. It turns out that my 3 years can be changed in just 3 minutes. 5. All my things are at Gu Xingzhou's house. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening when Lu Yanzhou dropped me off. Opening the door, there were about 6 or 7 people in the room, all of whom were friends of Gu Xingzhou and the others. Gu Xingzhou was leaning on the sofa, holding a beer in his hand. When he saw me coming back, the corner of his mouth curled up. I just said she will definitely come back. If you lose, transfer the money quickly. The man in the black hoodie cursed, lowered his head, and started to press the phone. Okay, 200, I'm done with it. I don't know where the licking dog came from, and he won't leave even if he is like this. His name is Xia Yang, and he is Gu Xingzhou's best brother. This is a good life. Another boy, Jiang Peng, answered, picked up the beer can, and took a sip. Manchua, why didn't you invite me that day? Maybe I will be the one to save people. Licking a dog means good luck. They covered everything between me and him with these 2 words. The accident that almost caused me to drown, the life-saving grace that I had been grateful for 3 years, in their words, became that I was just a thing that was randomly fished out, and no one could fish it out. Gu Xingzhou did not stop him from beginning to end. It turns out that the day I was rescued was also because of Jiang Manchua. If it were in the past, I would be stung by knowing this, but now there's no trouble. Jiang Manchua sat on the sofa, with a band-aid on her knee, and said softly, "Don't talk about Sister Nian like that. She is a very nice person." Gu Xingzhou reached out and rubbed her hair. "It's none of your business. Take good care of your injury." Then he turned his head and frowned at me. "Why are you still standing? Come in, it's your fault for being so petty that we didn't even eat. You change your clothes and go to the supermarket to buy some food." His tone was so natural. Like I'm a nanny on call. I ignored them and went straight to the bedroom. Gu Xingzhou's voice came from behind. "Did you hear that? At the bottom of the tomato pot, Manchua said you like tomatoes and specially ordered it for you. We've been together for 3 years, and he doesn't know that I don't eat tomatoes. Jiang Manchua said I liked it, and he believed it. I was packing my luggage in the room. Laughter came intermittently in the living room. Is sister-in-law angry? It's okay. She's just like that. She'll be fine in a while. My face reflected in the mirror was emotionless, with only boredom in my eyes. I never thought that one day I would be tired of the person I once loved as much as my life. I opened the door and dragged my suitcase across the living room. The sound of wheels rolling across the floor drowned out all the laughter. Gu Xingzhou stood up, placed the beer can on the table, and made a dull sound. Suni Yancy, what are you doing with the suitcase? I didn't reply, and I didn't stop. What am I talking to you about? Even if you go to accompany your uncle and aunt, you don't need to pack your luggage, right? I stopped at the entrance and looked back at him. There was annoyance on his face, but also a hint of determination. I am sure I am still angry with him this time. Gu Xingzhou, I've already told you to break up. It's not like you to still flirt with your ex. The noisy environment suddenly became quiet. Gu Xingzhou looked at the eyes of the people around him, and his face turned the color of pig liver. He rushed over in 2 steps and grabbed my suitcase full. Stop making trouble. Every time you come back from meeting your parents, you have to break up. Are you annoyed? He glanced back at his friends, as if seeking approval. Xia Yang answered immediately. When has my sister-in-law not packed up her things and hung them back up by herself? I stood in the living room, holding the suitcase tightly with my fingers. I did mention breaking up many times, but later he asked me back with a good attitude, and I believed that he would change again and again. But these expectations are like knives. They regard them as conversation topics and hand them over with a smile. I didn't say anything and continued dragging my suitcase forward. At this moment, Jiang Manxue stood up from the sofa, limped over, stretched out her hand to hold my arm. Her eyes were red. Sister Nian, don't leave. It's all my fault. I'm leaving now. Don't quarrel with Brother Zhou. As soon as her fingers touched my sleeve, I waved my hand subconsciously. Just a flick. But her whole body fell to the side like a kite with its string broken. Everyone in the living room was stunned. Manxue. Gu Xingzhou's eyes instantly became bloodshot, and he rushed over to help her. She curled up on the ground, her face turned pale, her lips were trembling, and the band-aid fell off at some point, revealing a light pink mark. You can't even tell it if you don't look carefully. The injury was much shallower than when I fell outside the operating room door, but I only received a perfunctory reply. It's not like I fell down. It's not a big deal. She had pain, but I didn't. Gu Xingzhou raised his head and pointed straight at me. Suni Yancy, why are you so vicious now? His palms were raised and fanned towards me with a sound of wind. I didn't have time to hide. The pain from the slap did not come through, but he fell into a warm embrace. Suni Yancy, who is this man? 6. Gu Xingzhou's voice exploded around him with a sense of betrayal and anger, as if I was the one who cheated on me. Lu Yanzhou used his backhand to protect me behind him. The tone was polite, but undeniably tough. I am her husband. Aft. Jiang Manxue stood up from the ground, patted the non-existent dust on her skirt, and stood behind Gu Xingzhou. Sister Nian, where did you find the actor? He's quite handsome. Hearing this, Gu Xingzhou breathed a sigh of relief. He loosened his clenched fists, even took half a step back, and looked Lu Yanzhou up and down, as if he was watching a bad trick. He turned to look at me, with a knowing smile on his lips. Suni Yancy, when did you learn this trick? The friends looked at each other, and then someone clicked their tongue. Sister-in-law, are you trying to create a sense of crisis for Brother Zhou? Do you want to force a marriage in reverse? Xia Yang threw the peanuts into his mouth and chewed them loudly. But to be honest, you're almost 30 years old, so don't worry about it. Who wants you if you leave the boat at this age? Zhang Peng answered and looked up and down my waist. She's 29, right? My sister is the same age as you, and her children are in elementary school. If it weren't for your pretty face, would Brother Zhou still be interested in you, who are 3 years older? If I say you are still obedient, maybe Brother Zhou will marry you when he is 30 years old. I suddenly remembered that 3 years ago, when Gu Xingzhou chased me, I rejected him many times. He was already better than me. He had just worked for a year and was high-spirited. He was the center of the crowd wherever he went. I quit my last job and was looking for a new one. I wore loungewear and revised my resume at home every day without even leaving the house. When he said he liked me, I thought he was joking. You are 3 years younger than me. I stood on the balcony, my back to him, my voice carried by the wind. Do you know? He walked around in front of me, held my face in his hands, rubbed my cheekbones with his thumbs, and smiled seriously. What's wrong with being 3 years older? I just like my sister. When he talked about his sister, there was light in his eyes. That kind of light makes me think that maybe age really doesn't matter. Maybe he really doesn't care. Maybe we can go on. But it took me 3 years to prove that I was wrong. The same 3-year-old was a candy 3 years ago and a knife 3 years later. I looked at their disgusting faces and suddenly laughed. I took out the red notebook from my bag and shook it twice. The voice was calm and indifferent. No need, I'm already married. The laughter in the living room stopped suddenly. Everyone's eyes fell on the red book. Gu Xingzhou's Adam's apple rolled up and down, and he reached out to take it over. Lu Yanzhou's hands were faster than his. 2 slender fingers pressed the marriage certificate and moved 2 centimeters to the side, just avoiding his hand. He didn't speak or even look at him, but the meaning of that action was clear. You are not qualified to touch. Look clearly, Lu Yanzhou's voice was calm. Today's date. Gu Xingzhou stood there, Raising his hand blankly, his eyes were red, his throat was slightly dry, and he said in a trembling voice, "No, it's impossible. Sue Yancy, tell me this is a lie." There were tears in his eyes, and he didn't know how much he cherished me. But I know that he was just lamenting the loss of a nanny who focused on him. It's true. I also wish you and Jiang Manxue to achieve success as soon as possible. After hearing this, the color on his face faded, and he staggered and fell into Jiang Manxue's arms. Pressed down by nearly 160 kilograms of weight, Jiang Manxue groaned. He pushed away Jiang Manxue's hand that was holding him, and he moved quickly, as if he had been burned by something. I must have drunk too much and had a dream. How could my Niancy not want me? He murmured. I continued walking forward. The lights in the corridor turned on one by one, and there was a burst of light ahead. Sue Niancy, come back, did you hear me? His voice was high-pitched, with an imperceptible tremor in the end. I heard it. 3 years ago, he said, "Baby, I will be good to you." I heard him. 2 years ago, he said, "Manxue is my sister. Don't think too much about it." I heard it. A year ago, he said, "I must go to see your parents this time." I heard him. A month ago, he said, "Your father's problem is nothing serious." And I heard it too. Hearing and believing are two different things. I used to believe everything I heard because he was Gu Xingzhou. Now I won't believe anything he says because he is Gu Xingzhou. The elevator door opened and Lu Yanzhou turned sideways to let me in first. I walked in with my suitcase and he followed me. Sue Niancy. 7. The elevator door closed. In the last crack, I saw Gu Xingzhou's stumbling figure. His eyes were extremely red and his lips were trembling. Not far behind him, Jiang Manxue and his friends were standing not far away with complicated expressions on their faces. Brother Zhou. Xiaoyang came over and stretched out his hand to pull him. Are you okay? Gu Xingzhou opened his hand. Roll. Xiaoyang was stunned. His hands froze in midair. I said get out. Gu Xingzhou stood up suddenly and stared at him with red eyes. Those words you just said, do you think I didn't hear them? Several people gathered around, and no one dared to say a word. Xiaoyang was the first to lose his temper. No, Brother Zhou, why are you angry at us? His voice was a little annoyed. You know in your heart that if you hadn't said in front of us every day that she always wanted you to meet her parents and hinted that she wanted to get married, you would have been so annoyed that you would have stopped dating her. Can we say that? I only said that I was under a lot of pressure. I never said that I didn't want to get along with her. Gu Xingzhou muttered. Last month, the day you fell ill. Xia Yang's tone was as harsh as breaking a jar. You threw the hospital meal specially cooked for you by Sue Niancy's parents into the trash can in front of Sue Niancy, and you said it was unclean and unhygienic. You ate the takeaway porridge Jiang Manxue ordered for you with your backhand. Which brother wouldn't misunderstand your behavior? Jiang Peng also let go of the conversation. And you always give up going to see Manxue's parents because of that little thing about Manxue. If you had done what I said, if you were a normal woman, you would have slapped her away. Gu Xingzhou's heart trembled when he heard this. He squatted on the ground in despair, his voice choked with sobs. But I paid him every time. He is only 26 years old this year, and he does not want to enter the grave of marriage so early. So he used Jiang Manxue as a shield and kept escaping. He kept transferring money to Sue Niancy, thinking that money could replace attendance, companionship, and a daughter's debt to her parents for 3 years. As for the patient's meal, there was a hair in it, and it was indeed dirty. Seeing Sue Niancy's expectant eyes, he couldn't eat it, so Manxue ordered takeout porridge to save him. But it's too late to say anything now. 8. My dad's condition cannot wait. The doctor said that the time until I can walk and move is at most 3 months. My mother turned over the calendar 3 times and finally settled on next Saturday, which was an auspicious day. When I told Lu Yanzhou the wedding date, he was making nutritious meals for my dad. This was something Gu Xingzhou had never done before. In the 3 years they had been together, the only time he went to the kitchen was because Jiang Manxue was hungry and he cooked her a bowl of noodles. Looking at the man in front of me, I felt in a trance. Why are you so nice? I couldn't help but say what was in my heart. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked me, what was your high school career like? Did you meet anyone special? I stopped holding the lunchbox and thought hard. Life was ordinary and monotonous, except for one accident. I saw a few people bullying a boy in an alley before school, so I called the police. His eyes fell on my face, as if he was remembering something. Then what? No, but that boy's face was covered in blood. It looked so scary. Lu Yanzhou stood opposite me, his fingers rubbing the table unconsciously. That boy is me. What did you say? I widened my eyes and couldn't help but exclaimed. 11 years ago, in the alley behind number 4 middle school, you were wearing a school uniform, a ponytail, and a white stuffed ball hanging on your school bag. You were very cute. I originally wanted to confess everything to you after I went to college, but due to family changes, I had nothing. Would you blame me for showing up too late? When I threw myself into his arms, his body stiffened and he hugged me tightly. It's your fault, it's your fault. My voice was muffled in his chest, with a cry and a nasal tone, like a child's playfulness. I thought I was charming enough to make the chief physician fall in love with me at first sight, but now you tell me that you have planned this for a long time. His chest shook and he was laughing. Okay, blame me. In front of Gu Xingzhou, I have to be sensible and generous, not make trouble, not want, or say, can you please not leave, when he leaves me for Jiang Manxue. I pretended to be a mature, non-clingy, and sensible sister. After pretending, I finally believed it myself. I believed that I was born to be this kind of person and that I was not worthy of being thought of in the first place, and that I was not worthy of being firmly chosen. But after Lu Yanzhou appeared, the shell cracked bit by bit. I am just an ordinary woman who only grows in age, but not in mind. 9. All my relatives and friends are in my hometown, so I plan to hold a wedding there first. When I returned home, my phone vibrated several times with messages from my colleagues. Niancy, there is a man who comes to the company to see you. He is quite handsome. He said he was your boyfriend. I said you had gone back to your hometown to hold a wedding, and his face suddenly turned pale. He kept asking me where your hometown is, but I said I didn't know. Gu Xingzhou really doesn't know where my hometown is. Every time I plan to take him to meet my parents, Jiang Manxue rings like a timed alarm clock. Now is the right time to be clean. Gu Xingzhou has been standing under the office building for an hour. When the girl at the front desk said she didn't know for the third time, Gu Xingzhou slapped his phone on the table. I can add money. The girl glanced at his mobile phone, then at his face, and the corners of her mouth moved mockingly. Sir, if you are really her boyfriend, you can call her or ask her or be her friend. Please don't embarrass us. Gu Xingzhou's fingers were frozen on the screen, and all of his methods of contacting Su Niancy had been blocked by her. As for Su Niancy's friends, he didn't know any of them. He put away his phone, turned around, and walked out. The wind was so strong that it made his eyes sting. He leaned against the car door and lit another cigarette. As the smoke rose, he remembered something. Once, Su Niancy discussed with him and wanted to take him to meet her friends. He had just been woken up by a phone call from Jiang Manxue saying that the water pipe at home had burst. He was so irritated that he took his anger out on her and said, "What's there to do with your friends? I don't know them." She never mentioned it again after that. He took a long drag on the cigarette and choked to tears. Suddenly, he remembered. Once, she said she wanted to buy something for her parents and placed the order using his mobile phone. Like crazy, he dug out the order records from 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and 1 year ago. Shipping address, an unfamiliar place name, and phone number. 10. It was only a 4-hour drive, but Gu Xingzhou walked for 3 years. When the guests started to leave, I saw Gu Xingzhou, who kept asking people on the road. He could still find it here. However, he never liked taking photos or saving my photos, and I am glad about this now. Hello, do you know Su Niancy? The aunt shook her head and left. He pulled another one. Su Niancy, do you know him? The one who was about to get married. The man also shook his head. He stood under the persimmon tree, like a tree in the wrong place. He didn't know that there was no one named Su Niancy in this village. They all only call each other by their nicknames. On his couch, in his car, and on the phone, I would tell him countless times they called me Lulu when I was a kid. He always says Lulu, what a cute name. Then he turned around and called the baby. Lu Yanzhou stood next to me, followed my gaze, and saw the figure who kept asking for directions under the persimmon tree. He just handed me the orange in his hand and said, "Want to come over?" I threw the orange peel into the trash can, along with the past. He shook his head, smiled at Lu Yanzhou, and said, "Hubby, let's go." When I returned to the yard, the wind blew over and blew away the last bit of firecracker smell behind me. During dinner, my dad suddenly said, "There is someone coming to see Lulu today. Is he the one you've been dating for 3 years?" My hand froze, and I didn't know what to do. "Dad, what are you talking about? Isn't Lu Yanzhou here?" "You kid never hide things. As soon as you stick your butt out, I know what you are thinking." From the first time we met, I knew that he was not the same person before. He valued you very much, which was completely different from before. With him here, I felt a lot more relieved. My eyes were red, and I was touched and guilty. I am almost 30 years old, and still worrying my parents is because my children are unfilial. As for that kid, I have sent him back. Gu Xingzhou was crying while driving. He walked around the streets near that address, but never found the person he wanted, until an old man walked straight towards him and said to him with complicated eyes, "Go back. Su Niancy is married. Don't bother her anymore." Gu Xingzhou was stunned for a moment, then his eyes sparkled. He grabbed the uncle's arm and tightened it as if he were grabbing the last straw. "Uncle, where is she? I just want to say a few words to her, just a few words." "Let me introduce myself first. I am Su Niancy's father. I am also the person you should have met in the past 3 years. I am also the person you said repeatedly is not dead." Gu Xingzhou's fingers loosened, as if they had been burned. He took a few steps back and hit the wall hard with his feet. Uncle. Go back. I am very grateful to you for saving my daughter's life, but ask yourself, you know what you've done to my daughter in the past 3 years. Now, this bad old man, will give you my life back." After listening to the conversation between you and Nian Ci last time, I was stimulated and relapsed. Time is running out. Nian Ci also knows this. It is absolutely impossible between you. Go back and don't disturb her. 11. That was the last time I saw Gu Xingzhou. Later, when I heard his name again, it was Jiang Mi who came to me to eat hot pot. She rinsed a piece of hairy belly, dipped it in the red oil, and said, "Hey, Gu Xingzhou was in a car accident and broke his leg. I don't know what happened. When I rescued him, his eyes were so swollen that he couldn't see the road clearly. Without stopping with the chopsticks in my hand, I took out a shrimp from the pot, blew on it, and put it in my mouth. Oh. Jiang Manxue ran away that night. Jiang Mi stuffed the belly into his mouth, chewed, and suddenly smiled. Where do you think she ran away? I shook my head. Going to find Xie Yang. Jiang Mi stirred the pot with his chopsticks. It's the one who is Gu Xingzhou's best brother, the one who said you were a dog licker in your living room. I was stunned for a moment, trying to remember this person. Thank you, Mrs. Yang. You haven't seen her before. Jiang Mi gestured with his chopsticks in the air. I was so scared at night when I saw Jiang Manxue's hair. Things at home were broken, and I needed a brother. I took the chat records directly to Jiang Manxue's hometown and sat in front of her house in the community for 3 days. I sent printed screenshots of the two of them chatting to everyone I met. Now when the children see her, they call her miss, and she doesn't even dare to leave the house. Holding the cup, I felt a little emotional. Some people still need to be treated ruthlessly. Jiang Mi glanced at me, his eyes falling on my belly. Stop talking about her. How many months are you now? I lowered my head and placed my palms on my round belly. The little guy inside was kicking his legs and kicked me in the palm of my hand. Almost 7 months. Is Lu Yanzhou very happy? He has been lying down listening every night for the past few days. I smiled. After listening, he also took notes. He said that he kicked his left leg 3 times and his right leg twice. You can tell at a glance that she is a lively girl. What are you talking about? You're so happy. Suddenly, Lu Yanzhou's voice came from behind, holding an angry 3-year-old boy in his hand. Staring at me with wide eyes. Mom, Dad won't give me ice cream. Can I change my dad? But what should I do if my mother doesn't want to feed you either? Do I want to change my mother? No, I love my mother the most. My son laid gently on my stomach, and Lu Yanzhou put his hand on my shoulder. My best friend is eating hot pot opposite. My future is very happy.